So I want to bring in Murad Awawdeh. He's the president and CEO of the New York Immigration Coalition. He's on Zoom, joining us live. Hey, Murad, how you doing?
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's get straight to it because obviously a lot of people are talking about this. We know that immigration in general has been a big issue for us locally, New York City, the tri-state, and nationally. Of course, taking our viewers back to the Trump administration, President Trump back in the Oval Office, day one hitting the ground with an aggressive deportation agenda. First of all, we want to ask you because you work so closely with these communities in New York City. How are people feeling? Because, of course, when you see something like this happen, even if it is in another part of the country, it hits home, right? If you're a member of the immigrant communities here in New York City.
Well, I think all New Yorkers are horrified by the actions that unfolded yesterday in Minneapolis and what looks like just a short time ago in Portland, where two additional people were shot by immigration officials. This is incredibly distressing and illustrates ICE's modus operandi in this moment, which is operating as a rogue, lawless agency.
So yeah, we were telling the viewers about Portland, confirming federal immigration officers shoot and wound two people in Portland. Um, you know, it's it it's an issue where you're going to hear a lot of people expressing opinions. And we've seen protests both, in different parts of the country that have to do with immigration, but we are seeing growing protests there. People are trying to have their voices heard. The other side of this is you hear the administration say, we have a job to do. What's your biggest takeaway in terms of what you've been watching unfold over the last several months now, I guess a year?
We've seen the Trump administration continue to wage war against immigrants, not just here in New York, but across this country. We've seen them try to deploy National Guard, the military, against their own citizenry. This is not normal times, and I think it's important to say that because you never see this in thriving democracies. You see this happening in dictatorships and in fascist regimes. So it's really important that people watching understand that this is not normal. And while people continue to struggle to make ends meet, dealing with the affordability crisis, the Trump administration is investing $170 billion to put on a theatrical show of them hunting down people across this country and now murdering people. That is not something that we should be okay with. This administration's motto of operation, apparently at this point, is live, laugh, lie. And they continue to lie to the American people and tell them what they're seeing with their eyes is not true. But what we do know is that people will wake up, people will see what this for what it is, and that this is unhinged, state-sanctioned violence against people who call this country home.
It's interesting because just as a matter of transparency, I've reported a lot on immigration, and you being with an immigration coalition, you're obviously going to have a certain position. It really struck me, and years ago, I worked at the border. I covered these issues at the front line, but it really struck me in terms of what a polarizing issue this is with the president back in the Oval Office this time around. And I don't know if it's a matter of seen it, maybe with my life experience or my experience growing as a journalist, kind of taking it in a different way. But you have people with very polarizing opinions, and then something happens where somebody loses a life. I mean, the woman that was killed, we don't even know exactly what she was doing. We know that there was some sort of protest there, but we don't know. We know that there's ICE operations in the area, but we don't know exactly all the details. We have a lot of questions. It's really sad to see it come down to a life lost at the end of the day.
It's incredibly sad to see any life lost. And this has been something that we have been fearful of, that these actions would lead to someone losing their life or people losing their lives. And Renee Nicole Good lost her life being a legal observer. That's what she was doing. She was observing what ICE was doing as a legal observer in her community and was shot and murdered. Her 6-year-old will not have a mother anymore to go home to. This is the human impact that we're talking about. We're seeing this administration wage war against immigrants. They've passed and put forward over 500 anti-immigrant policies in their first year, and they continue to double and triple down on this. Yes, there's polarization in this country because the American people have been sold time and again the reason why you're not doing so well, or because of this issue, it's someone else, when it really isn't that. And it's failure of government. It's the failure of government to support and help the people who call its country home. It's also the oligarchy that we're dealing with and the billionaire class that continues to take, and 8 people in this world have more wealth than billions of people. I think that is the real issue. And the polarization is a deeply invested project of those to continue to make sure that people continue to fight with each other instead of fighting the real target, which is the people who are stealing and taking more from all of us to line their pockets. H.R. 1, the bill that was passed recently in the House and in the Senate, which was signed, was the largest wealth transfer in U.S. history, taking away SNAP and health care from individuals in this country to give more tax breaks to the billionaires. How does that help anyone?
Yeah, I hear you saying that this is multi-layered, right? And this can go into other issues. But when we're looking at what happened in Minneapolis, you know, we know that ICE was in the neighborhood to conduct an ongoing illegal immigration operation, right? Now, stepping back a bit, right? When there's major operations, whether it's federal immigration officers, whether it's FBI or whatever branch, NYPD to a certain extent, if you're looking at a special unit, I mean, we're not going to know the details of what they were doing. That's to protect the investigation. But we've seen this play out, right? Seen ICE agents going into communities, and we've seen people being picked up, arrested. Now, the administration said we're going to focus on criminals first, taking you back a year. But the administration also said, you know, if you've crossed the border, you are in the country illegally if you did not come in legally, so to speak. I mean, there's so many people, not only in the tri-state, as you know, people that you work with every day through your position with the Immigration Coalition, but just in the country overall that would fall under, I mean, do we even have an actual head count? We don't, under the number of people who the administration says doesn't belong here. So how complicated is this?
Well, what we've seen, not just in Minneapolis, but in LA and in Chicago, is the Trump administration continue to flood cities simply for being who they are, for really being a welcoming city, an inclusive city, with law enforcement. So, you know, there may be different types of actions, but what we've seen under this administration is that they've weaponized the entire federal government to literally hunt down people. And that's what they're doing. This has never been about safety and security for this administration. It's about cruelty, and that's their point. So when we talk about this issue, you know, they're not going after, you know, the worst of the worst. They're going after ordinary people just going about their life, taking their kids to school, going to work, trying to live a life, contributing to our society. Here in the state of New York, immigrants contribute over $82 billion in state and local taxes, have a spending power of over $250 billion. And in this moment, instead of addressing the real issues that Americans are feeling day in and day out, which is an affordability crisis that's breaking the backs of everyday people who call this country home, we see them continue to invest in terror, see them invest in things that just won't help anyone at the end of the day, but will continue to allow them to parrot the same talking points that they're going after people to keep us safe. But the things that they're doing are not keeping us safe, as we've seen with what happened in Minneapolis with Renee Nicole Good, who was murdered yesterday.
Murad, thank you so much for your time and for being here with us to give us some context. Of course, you know, you have a pulse on what's happening nationally, but of course, you're in New York City, given your position with the New York Immigration Coalition. Thank you for your time tonight. We appreciate it.